Picture this. I'm in the supermarket late at night, with only a handful of other shoppers around. The fluorescent lights flicker intermittently, casting long, eerie shadows that dance and sway across the aisles. The air carries a chill, unusual for this time of year, and the silence is broken only by the soft hum of the refrigeration units. It starts small, a can of soup toppling off the shelf as I pass by, rolling aimlessly across the tiled floor. I chalk it up to a poor stacking job, but then it happens again. A box of cereal, a jar of pickles, items falling like dominoes in my wake. It's as if an invisible hand is trailing behind me, casually knocking things off the shelves. Then come the whispers, soft, barely audible, like a breeze rustling through leaves. They seem to be right in my ear, yet when I spin around, there's no one there. I strain my ears, trying to catch the words, but they slip away, leaving just the echo of a voice in my mind. Next, my shopping list. I'd written it on a piece of paper tucked safely in my pocket. But now, it's different. Items I didn't write, things I don't even like, are scribbled in my own handwriting. It's disconcerting, like my own mind is playing tricks on me. The unease grows with each passing minute. I feel eyes on me, watching, observing from the shadows. I see movement in my peripheral vision, but when I turn, it's gone. It's a feeling of being hunted, of being prey in some twisted game. Fear grips me, a vice tightening around my chest. I rush through the rest of my shopping, the need to escape this place overpowering everything else. The checkout is a relief, a beacon of normality in this sea of strangeness. As I left the supermarket that night, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I wasn't alone, that somewhere in the darkness something was watching me, an unseen shopper joining me on my late-night grocery run. Another night, another late-night supermarket run. But this time, something more sinister awaited me. It was just a typical evening, a basket full of groceries in hand, and an empty house waiting to be filled with the aroma of a late-night meal. As I moved towards the checkout, I noticed a line that I hadn't seen before. It was as if it had materialized out of thin air, manned by a cashier whose appearance was as eerie as the situation. The cashier was of an indescribable age, his eyes a hollow gray that seemed to stare right through me. His skin was as pale as the fluorescent light overhead, and he wore an old-fashioned uniform that seemed out of place in the modern supermarket setting. His movements were mechanical, almost robotic, as he scanned items with a slow, deliberate pace that sent a shiver down my spine. With a sense of unease, I approached the checkout, placing my items on the conveyor belt one by one. The cashier's hollow eyes followed my movements, but he remained silent. The only sound in the otherwise empty supermarket was the beep of the scanner and the rustling of grocery bags. As the last item was scanned, I reached for my wallet, but when I looked up, the cashier was gone. In his place, a chilling breeze that made me shudder. I looked around, but the checkout line was as empty as it had been when I first noticed it. The cashier, the conveyor belt, the groceries, all had disappeared, leaving behind only the cold fluorescent light and the echo of a distant beep. I ran out of there as fast as I could, leaving my groceries behind. I thought I had experienced it all, but I was wrong. The worst was yet to come. My feet carried me along, pushing the shopping cart ahead as I wandered into the freezer aisle. The usual hum of the freezers was replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the distant murmurs of shoppers in other sections. As I ventured further, an intense cold enveloped me. It was an unnatural chill, far beyond the usual temperature of the freezer section. My breath condensed in the air, forming little clouds that hung for a moment before dissipating. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Then, out of nowhere, I heard it. A child's laughter. It echoed around me, bouncing off the glass doors of the freezers, creating a chilling symphony of mirth. The sound was unsettling, a gleeful giggle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I spun around, expecting to see a mischievous child running away, but the aisle was empty. The overhead lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows that danced along the rows of frozen goods. Summoning my courage, I continued down the aisle, my eyes darting from one freezer to the next. To my shock, I found all the freezer doors wide open. The cold air poured out, swirling around my ankles like a spectral river. The laughter echoed louder, more insistent, but still there was no one in sight. Was it a trick? A prank? Or something far more sinister? I didn't wait around to find out. I abandoned my cart, my groceries forgotten, and rushed out of the aisle. I left the supermarket that night, vowing never to return. But the memories still haunt me. The laughter, the cold, the open freezer doors, they are etched into my mind, a chilling reminder of the night I walked down the haunted freezer aisle. I thought I was safe, but the supermarket had one last horror in store for me. There's a certain comfort in the familiar, in the routine. You wake up, go to work, come home, and maybe you'll swing by the supermarket to pick up some groceries. It's mundane, it's predictable, it's safe. Or so I thought. Days had passed since my eerie encounters at the supermarket. The unsettling images of the unseen shopper, the spectral checkout, and the haunted freezer aisle had begun to fade into the background of my memory. Life was returning to its normal rhythm, but as I would soon discover, the supermarket wasn't done with me yet. I came home one day to find a package sitting on my doorstep. It was a plain brown box, nondescript and ordinary, but the label caught my eye. It was addressed to me, but the sender was the supermarket. My heart pounded in my chest as I picked up the box. It was unexpectedly heavy, and I could hear something shifting inside. With a sense of dread, I opened the box. Inside, neatly packed, were the groceries I had left behind at the supermarket. The very same items I had abandoned in my haste to escape the eerie happenings. There they were, sitting in my living room, a chilling reminder of the horror I had experienced. But that wasn't the worst part. Folded neatly next to the groceries was a note. It was a simple piece of paper, but the message it bore sent a shiver down my spine. In a neat, cursive handwriting that seemed almost too elegant for such a terrifying message, it read, "See you soon." As I read those words, a sudden chill swept over me. It was as if the temperature in the room had dropped several degrees in an instant. I could see my breath in the air, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. And then I heard it, the soft, almost inaudible whisper that I had first heard in the supermarket. It was back, and this time it was in my own home. It was a hushed, murmuring sound, like a distant conversation carried on the wind. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was the same eerie whisper from the supermarket, the same chilling voice that had haunted my dreams. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked around my living room. There was no one else here, no source for the whispering voice. It was as if the supermarket had somehow followed me home, as if the horror I had experienced had somehow crossed the threshold of my own home. I spent the rest of the night in a state of heightened alert, every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind outside setting my nerves on edge. But as the hours passed, the whispering voice faded away and the chill in the room slowly dissipated. As I sit here now, I can't help but wonder, was it all just my imagination? Or is there something more to these supermarket horror stories? The package, the note, the whispers, they were all too real, too tangible to be merely figments of my imagination. But could it really be possible? Could a supermarket, a place of mundane, everyday routine, hold such a dark secret? I guess I'll just have to wait and see. After all, the note did say, "See you soon." I've shared my tales of terror, but what about you? Just like these eerie encounters I've recounted, I'm sure many of you have your own spine-chilling stories from the aisles of the supermarket. Perhaps it was a disturbing figure you noticed in the corner of your eye, or an unexplainable incident that left you trembling. Maybe it was an uncanny sense of being watched, or a whispering voice that seemed to be coming from nowhere. Whatever your story, we would absolutely love to hear it. The comment section is your stage. Unleash your inner storyteller and let us in on your own supermarket horror stories. You never know, your experience might just be the perfect fodder for our next video. And who knows, your story might just be the one to send shivers down the spines of our viewers. If you found yourself captivated by these stories, if they stirred something within you, a sense of dread, or maybe even curiosity, then do us a favor. Go ahead and hit that like button. It's a small gesture, but it means the world to us. Each like is a beacon, guiding us through the dark and foggy path of horror storytelling. It tells us that you're out there, listening and eager for more. And if you're not already part of our community, why not subscribe? By subscribing, you're making sure you never miss out on a new tale of terror. You're joining a group of horror enthusiasts, a community of individuals who, just like you, have a penchant for the peculiar, the eerie, and the downright terrifying. Remember, subscribing is more than just a click. It's a pact, a promise that you'll be there, ready and waiting whenever we have a new story to share. It's your ticket to the front row seat of our horror storytelling journey. So go ahead, like, subscribe, and share your stories. Join us as we continue to delve into the uncanny, the unsettling, and the unknown. Remember, you're not alone. We all have our own supermarket horror stories. So, what's yours?